Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Spear Tips. I'm back with Mike.
Hey.
And we've gotten to play a game with the brandest newest of the Spearheads.
Only newest?
Onlyest newest?
Everything else is tied.
Well, no, because there's
new...
the Dark Oath.
Right.
Right. There's the new Dark Oath. Yeah.
I haven't played with them yet.
You're second place. You're second place. You weren't the newest, but you're the second newest. You're technically the newest, but you weren't first to be newest.
Right.
This is going great, right, guys? All right, so if you haven't watched Spearheads before, this is our faction review for Spearheads, which is Warhammer Age of Sigmar's kitchen table version of Age of Sigmar. There are new factions in play, including the Dark Oath. And when we play a game with them, we then do this as like a companion series where you sit down and talk with the factions, do breakdowns of them. And yeah, and you guys get to come along and hear our opinions. So the Orc War clans were neat because you had most of the models already. You added the two new units, the Rekkas and the Ardboys.
Yeah.
Oh, the Ardboys had miniatures before, but these are just cooler, newer miniatures.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this Spearhead comes with a Mega Boss, a unit of 10 Ardboys, but it's divided into 5-man units.
Yep.
And then into Rekka's squad and a Brute squad. The Brutes is, I think, the Brutes and the Mega Boss are the oldest miniatures in that box, yeah?
Yeah, they're the original release.
But that's a lot of models.
Yeah.
And it's almost ogre amounts of points, too, as far as the game's concerned. Because how many points would it be in regular AOS?
It would be...
You have the thing in front of you. Oh, there's no points in that book.
There's no points in that. There's no points in the book.
There's no points in the book. Damn
I know
it.
the Brutes are 200 alone.
That's right, yeah.
The Rekkas are like 160-ish.
So is the boss. So
yeah,
like,
you're
looking at like 800 points, maybe?
Yeah, between 700 and 800 points, anyhow.
Because we've been talking about Path to Glory recently, and that kind of puts Spearhead into like a light of, well, which of these are closest to being a Path to Glory beginning army? You know what I mean? And this one's really, really close because it's a lot of points in the box.
Yeah.
A lot more than like Cities of Sigmar. Cities of Sigmar is like 400 points.
Right.
Right? Those poor humans. Could you imagine being a human in this universe? It would just suck. Like everything's better than you in every possible way.
Yeah.
You are the lowest. The goblins they're like on par with you because they're all high on hallucinogenic mushrooms and think they're better. Your basic dudes are not great.
Yeah. But
so that's the box. That's what comes in the box. How did you find? And you did incorporate some of your older stuff. So like your Mega Boss, for instance, is the subscriber bonus one from Warhammer Plus, and then what's funny was in the market because you started paying them when we saw the pictures, the preview.
Yeah.
So you started building. You built your Rekkas as the Weird Boy Rekkas, not as the regular Brute Rekkas.
Yeah.
Because they put the wrong picture up when they did the preview.
Yeah, and we're playing Spearhead, and it doesn't matter because it's the three dudes that are whirligig half-naked orcs, so who cares?
What are the options for the Brute squad? Because it's the older kit, so it makes the ones with 2 choppas and the ones with the big halberds?
Yeah, you can have halberds, or you can have 2 choppas. You can do one guy with the jagged
Cleaver.
gore haka, I think it's called. And you got a couple different boss options as far as the weapons for him go with the claw.
Because he has like the snappy claw?
Yeah, the snappy claw. And I think there's a banner as well. And again...
Spearheads doesn't matter.
Spearhead, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. There's no difference. So.
How are they to build? They're an earlier AOS kit. How are the Brutes compared to the Ardboys, actually? Because the Ardboys being brand new, the old Ardboys were like 7th edition Warhammer kits. And so they had that like kind of Space Marine posability.
Yeah.
What about these guys?
These ones were, I remember I made a mental note to save this bit of information that they were so nice.
Really?
To put together. They were so nicely laid out on the sprue, even.
Like pieces were like in the same area?
Yeah, the pieces were nicely collected for the most part. Even when you had options, because you get different weapon options for them, I think. And they were kind of well laid out and close together, and they were just a delight to put together.
So the opposite of the Caradron Overlords that we were talking about?
The opposite of that. And I saved all of these really nice thoughts, and then I put together the Big Pig immediately after that, and most of those nice thoughts washed away because what a nightmare that thing was.
Luckily, he doesn't come in the Spearhead.
He doesn't come in the Spearhead, so you don't have to worry about that.
But he was not as much fun to build.
He was not.
Okay, so how would you like? I guess then for buildability, because you built the original Mega Boss too, so that even though you have like a cool custom one for this game, you just use the game as an excuse to paint it. You've also got the whatchamacallits, the old school, well, not old school, but the Ard Boys, not the Brutes,
Yeah.
which are like an earlier AOS kit.
Yeah.
And the Rekkas. What would you like put this in complexity for someone just starting Spearhead?
Honestly, everything about the Spearhead is pretty
Beginner
beginner friendly. I like it. And then I brought them here today in a little 8x8 box.
Yeah, they pack up real small, don't they?
it's so transportable. You can carry it in your mouth.
And there's no big weird thing like Chariot or Knights or anything like that.
No.
So there's no like, they're not pokey.
There's not even anything tall,
Yeah.
right? Like it's all.
You fit in a lunchbox.
Very nice. Yeah. Yeah, literally.
An old like 1950s like metal lunchbox, like a Fallout lunchbox.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's really good. And as far as ease of assembly, I think everything in the kit is
nothing too fiddly. There's not a lot of like
too fiddly. No tiny bits. No painting. They're not festooned with gubbins.
Well, they're Space Marines. They're just green skin Space Marines, right? Because they're literally they're completely covered in armor plates.
Yeah.
So they're nice and easy to paint as well.
But even then, sometimes like the Chaos guys would be like, okay, it's just armor and 18 skulls and 4
5 belt buckles,
severed hands and
I have a real enmity for belt buckles now in miniature painting where I'm like, this guy does not need this many buckles on him. Why does he have this many straps in his armor? And I'm like, I'm very anti-buckle. Like I like detail, but God, guys, why so many buckles? I get that in like real life armor would be that way.
Yeah.
It's just infuriating.
Yeah. No. These guys are not that. So as far as like, beginner friendly, 100%. I think these guys are the top one that I've put together as far as just ease of access to getting them on the table.
It's a nice battle armor. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's dive in and start doing rules. We've gone through the box, the build and paint part. Let's get to the play part. So what's your regimental ability here?
So I have got...
It's not regimental, your battle trait.
Battle trait. So there's 2 things here. There's Here We Go, because I have to hide my brute models off the board for the first 2 battle rounds.
Yeah.
So
they're the slowest guys to arrive.
Yeah. They show up round 3, but it's anywhere not within 6 of the enemy. So they kind of deep strike, same as Stormcast, which is nice because they're so slow that getting them where they want to go could take a little while.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. So Here We Go is their we arrive ability.
It's kind of like the Ogre Kingdoms where they have like a powerful, huge amount of points, so they're staggered.
So they're staggered. But I think the Ogre Kingdoms have to come on from the board edge, like from your friendly.
They do in your territory. It's 6 your territory edge.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit better off there with mine. And then the other part is Mighty Destroyers, which is similar to the rule in the big game, where I get to pick a unit that was not set up this turn, and they get to move 3 inches, and that's every hero phase.
So enemy 2. So you can creep on objectives to every hero phase of the unit and stuff as well. It's neat because because they're all 4-inch move, they've kind of baked in this like almost like inevitability advance thing, right? Where they're always kind of like just rolling towards you.
Yeah. And you can move into combat with it, which is...
Can you?
Yeah. So
you just can't move out of combat.
It can move into combat, and if you were in combat, you must end that move in combat. Although, now that I'm reading it doesn't say with the same unit.
Oh, interesting.
So I could like skirt out of one fight into another one. And I could move in, and that gets around like the Fire Slayers have got plus rend against their anti-charge plus 1 rend.
Yeah, because you're not charging now, and it's also allowing you to not trigger any kind of like defensive charge abilities. It allows you to get around things like redeployment because it's the hero phase. So
hero phase. Yeah, so it's got some really interesting tech.
You can circle into objectives that have been screened out as well.
Yeah, and unlike a lot of the stuff in this our force, it's not tied to brute and the war boss, whereas a lot of the stuff is. So
the only thing you can't do is you can't do it the turn you arrive.
Yeah.
So your guys who like arrive on round 3, they're not allowed to do it that turn, but they're outside of 6 anyway, so they're usually just pulling off a charge.
Yeah, they're probably all right. Yeah. And then, so that's what you've always got. You got 2 options for your regimental ability, which is either natural disaster, where if I roll an 8+ on my charge rolls, I get +1 attack, which could be good. Or I've got once per battle, when I declare Mighty Destroyers, I can move all of the friendly units that were not set up this turn.
Yeah. So it's not your guys that arrived this turn.
So that's a cool way to snag objectives or whatever you're trying to do, really.
Sweet. So let's talk about the units themselves. So first things first, your leader, the Mega Boss.
The Mega Boss.
How's this guy looking? He's a big ball of muscle.
I would love to know what the justification is for him hitting on 4+.
I mean, it's a heavy weapon. I don't know.
He's a big dude.
He woons on twos.
He wounds on
literally
twos.
all of the army, like the ogres, are the exact same. He's almost the exact same as the ogre tyrant.
Yeah. He's basically the same. I don't know if there's enough justification to say, yeah, this guy lives for war and misses half the time.
I think it's a holdover for AOS because you can all attack.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't want you hitting on twos, winning on twos.
Yeah.
So they're having you hit on fours, and then when you all attack, you hit on threes.
But
because there's no all attack in Spearhead,
yeah,
it does mean that you are a little pillow fisted for your randomness for hitting.
Yeah, and 8 attacks is really nice. He also has a hero phase ability to, on a 2+, you pick a unit within 12 inches of, and this is a him or brutes. So for the first 2 battle rounds at least, it's
just him.
And it's on a 2+, you get +1 attacks. So functionally 9 attacks.
9 attacks
most
on
of the
4s
time.
and 2s is a lot.
And 2 damage.
And he's 2 damage, yeah.
And Rend 1.
And Rend 1.
And
what's his core stats like? He's move 4, obviously, because this is move 4 of the faction.
yeah, move for the faction. 8 health is great. 3+ save. Only 2 control.
So he's
which is pretty normal for an
He's a
infantry
slower tyrant, but with better armor.
Yeah.
And no gun.
No gun.
Because that is the other thing, is you don't have a shooting phase, period.
Yeah.
There's no shots in this army at all.
And he's on a huge base too.
He's on a giant 50. He's on the same base as the tyrant, the 50 mil.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's very cool. I think he's really good. And with the enhancements, I love that all 4 of the enhancements for this guy are passives.
Passive. Yeah. And we'll talk about those when we get to adding in our short around stuff.
Okay.
So what about the Ard boys? Because they're what you're starting with in the unit. You get 2 units of 5.
Yep.
No reinforcement. So this is what you get.
Yep. This is it. So they're, 2 attacks. They hit on 4s. Everything hits on 4s. Wound on 3s. Almost everything is 2s or 3s to wound. So
The 32 mil base Stormcast.
yeah, they're a 32 mil base Stormcast that hits on 4s.
With
basically
less movement.
Less movement. Anti-charge Rend +1 though. So Rend 2 if you charge me is pretty cool.
I like that because it's their big spiky shields. Their big spiky shields are basically stood up, and they have a shield bash like attack too later on.
Yeah.
But their whole thing is if you charge them, you're just impaling yourself on their armor.
Yeah. Yeah. And then for the shield bash, every combat phase, I pick an enemy unit within 1 inch, and all of my guys within 3, which when you're only dealing with a 5-man unit should be everybody.
Yep.
You roll a die, and on a 6, you inflict immortal damage. And unlike a lot of things, it's not tied to their health characteristic.
That's right. It's not roll higher, roll double your health, or whatever that is.
Nothing to do with who controls the
It
objective.
hurts tree men. It hurts everybody.
Yeah.
It's just I am equally spiky, and I will hurt everybody the same, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
So they're pretty good. They lasted longer than I thought they were going to, honestly, against the chaos.
Oh, we were like toe to toe.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah. So and the shield bash was really keeping them in the damage war there.
Mm-hmm. Well, their one weak spot, and actually a weak spot for this whole army, is their objective control.
Yeah.
Right? So the 2 wounds each, 3+, but your objective control 1.
Yep.
And you're like objective control 1 to the faction. I think who's got 2? Is it your boss?
Just the boss has got 2, yeah.
Everybody else is just model by model.
Yeah.
So they have a hard, they need to kill you off objectives to take them.
And it's not a huge model count. So yeah, you don't have a lot there.
So let's talk about the guys that come on later.
Yeah, so the guys that come on later, halfway through the game, you're going to pick up your Brute Ragers, who are, shocking movement 4. Only a 5-up save on these ones.
Because they're not wearing shirts.
Control 1, health 3. All the Brutes are health 3, which is cool. So you got 3 models, so 9 wounds there. They are 3 attacks each. These ones wound on 2 and are damaged 2. And on the turn they charge, they get strike first.
Because they're fanatics, except they're giant brute fanatics.
Yeah, they're very, very cool. Should hit like a ton of bricks. Doesn't help if you can't
roll dice.
If you can't roll dice.
Actually, it wasn't even
nothing
your
helps.
hits in that case.
No, that
it
was
was my -1 to wound. Yeah. I had -1 to wound on my guys.
Oh no, that was all 1s and 2s. Or
They wound on 2s,
the
though.
2s.
That was why.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It
That
would have
did help.
actually wouldn't be normally.
Would have helped.
Yeah. We're just replaying the game tape here.
Yeah. But only the 5-up save on them.
Because the extra wound because they're yoked, but they decided to take their armor off because it chafes.
Yeah. It's not comfy. But they're very cool. They can hit like a ton of bricks. 3 attacks each.
They're your big, besides the mega boss who also hits like a ton of bricks. They're your big I need to take this thing down or clear this objective this turn, and because of that way that Deep Strike arrives, they just arrive within 6 of anywhere you want.
Yeah, and
you just send this unit of spinning orc killing machines into it.
And the war boss.
that third turn you're getting to go if you've got initiative on your round. Actually, even if you go bottom up because they don't arrive until then, you're getting to go with 2 units before your opponent gets to go.
Yeah, which is huge. And the war boss could put them up to 12 attacks.
Yep.
with his get stuck in lads. Although interesting, you're comparing the two. If you stuck in lads, the war boss, his attacks are the exact same as the 3 ragers.
There you go.
Which is, except for not striking first.
Yeah.
And then, so they're very cool. And then you get a big unit of 5 brutes. And being 5 gives you a couple of cool things with call reinforcements and stuff. Although they come in so late, it's not likely to matter.
It's not likely you'll get to reinforce them.
But they've got, so they're 3 attacks, force to hit, 3s to wound, again damage 2. So they do hit hard when they hit. And but the best thing about these guys is the You Messin passive ability.
I love this ability.
It's so good.
For when you absolutely positively have to take an objective away from somebody.
Yep. Enemy units with a health characteristic of 1 or 2 cannot contest objectives while in combat with me.
Yeah. There's walking away like, are you kidding? Are you for real?
Do you think this is yours, Goblin?
Right, yeah.
I don't care if there's a million of you. Yeah.
It's the like, it doesn't matter what your name is.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so good against like Skaven and skeletons and these recurring factions that are just like, well, there's more of me, there's more of me.
Well, and everybody else, they're OC5, right? So like total. So they're probably going to take it away against other heroes and anything that's a higher health characteristic. They just don't care.
Yeah, anything that doesn't have a banner. Yeah, so that's great.
Yep. It's a very cool ability.
Them coming in halfway through the game is totally fair.
Yep.
This faction would be insane.
If you just never hold objectives against them, that'd be pretty bad.
Yeah.
And there are 15 wounds with a 3+ save.
Yeah.
They are on par with my Chaos Knights, which we talk about in the game.
Yeah.
As far as like durability, because they arrive so late, right? Because it's almost doing 15 wounds to a 3+ save, especially if you have like spike cards in your hand, is going to be really hard. If you have a 5+ shrug or something like that, they're almost impossible to take off. And one of them will hold an objective against an unlimited amount of 1 or 2 health. His ego, his people's eyebrow just keeps him basically from being able to be taken away.
You guys just don't count. Well,
that's right.
Yeah.
What's your name? It doesn't matter what your name is.
Yeah. They're the unit makes me happy when they show up. And again, being a big unit of 5, super cool.
Yeah. And again, there's staggered deployment, so you'll get to send them where you want them to go, and they can't be alpha struck off.
Yeah.
So first or second for this army? What do you think? We're getting to setup now, so we're into the play section. So what do you think for this army? Do they want to have the initiative because they struggle to control objectives until turn 3 or 4?
Yeah.
So earning points is either off your cards, right, or off just pure killing and taking spots.
Yeah, and honestly, they're not that great at killing early on either. Like the war boss should be, but the other guys are fine. Like the Yard Boys, they're only okay at it. I think that this army wants to, depending on the opponent and how hard hitting the opponent is, I think that they, in most matchups, are going to want to go first, move on to the objectives, and then use, if they have to, use the Mighty Destroyers to stop people. So you can charge into me, but you can't charge into me onto the objective. Mm-hmm. And just say no.
Yep.
And I think they just need to like try to say no for 2 turns.
Okay. Until the reinforcements arrive.
Unless your opponent is going to come in and wipe out the 11 dudes that you have on the table, and then you got to play a little bit more focused fire and pick your targets and get rid of them.
So then your opponent's gonna, if you're choosing turn order, then you're going to be attacker. Then your opponent's gonna get to define the battlefield. Yeah. If you had to, though, if you were defender, which of the 2 decks do you think you'd like to take?
I'm thinking actually.
I do too.
For sure.
Yeah. Because there's the most potential for killing scoring there.
Yeah.
And you might, because you're so slow, you might spend the first 2 turns the underdog.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to let you score.
That's the biggest thing, is that the underdog bonuses in Actually are really beneficial to this army in particular, to the point where if I was playing an Actually, I think I would maybe scrub a couple of points to keep the underdog. Into turn 3 and 4, because
like not pull your battle tactics until later so that you can keep them into
because then I can just turn off, like turn 3 and 4 I can turn off you controlling objectives. With the brutes I can really rack up the score late game.
It also has the erupting objective, which just kills an objective, so you can kill one of my objectives, and because you have like a low scoring model count, that's really handy. I do think Actually is the place you want to find it. I don't think Garan helps you, because Garan is about like making yourself more like there's not any, I think, additional killing options. There's holding options with like life spring and stuff like that, and there's a bunch of healing that you don't super care about, except maybe on your boss.
Yeah.
So I think that is the right call. All right, so let's talk about your regimental ability then and your enhancements now. So if you're attacking, you're picking these first.
Yeah. So the enhancements for the war boss are either an Amberbone Whetstone for Rend 2, which is pretty enticing against something like Chaos. There.
Yeah, situational, yeah.
You can also take Trophy Skulls and make his control score 5.
Oh, this is enhancements. We're talking about regimental abilities first.
Oh, sorry, regimental abilities.
Because first you got to pick what your army does, and then it's your enhancements.
We went over that a little bit. Okay. Anyway, so this is my unmodified charge roll of 8+, gives me +1 attack. Or alternatively, all of my army that didn't set up this turn gets to Mighty Destroy.
I think it's pretty obvious which one. Because one's not dice. You might just not get one for the entire game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other one is the proper ruckus, I think. That'll let you move up, and then that's when I'm thinking on my opponent's turn, I'm going to move everybody to the other side of the objectives and just screen them out entirely.
Well, think about how that would affect, like, let's say you get top of 3, and then your opponent's 4, your whole army pushes 3 inches.
Yeah.
That can be massive. You can push units into combat, because, like, I think that's what people wouldn't think about with that one. It's like, well, but half your army isn't going to get to use it, potentially, right? Well, no. If you get initiative round 3, you get to go, and then at the end of that turn have set up a whole bunch of things where top of 3 during the hero phase, you push everybody into combat.
Yeah.
And now you're like getting rid of charge bonus. You're doing all these things that are getting rid of stuff. So like even things like running a unit over to just outside of 3 of a unit, not having to be in combat, but then your opponent's next hero phase, just shove them into their face and have them locked down on 3. Yep. Huge ability.
And that's after their ability to redeploy. That's after.
Yep.
Yeah. Or not, sorry, this is before their ability to redeploy, but it's
I don't see a lot
after their hero phase where they've dedicated where they're
going to be. Yeah. So I do think that's like it's about like if I was to put them together, they're not neck and neck. Like I think that ability is just higher with the mobility issues the army has. Waiting to spike dice to get extra attacks is never the best.
Yeah, I can't think of a. I'm sure there's a matchup or a something somewhere where I might think about natural disaster, but I think it's going to be proper ruckus.
Whenever I look at any ability, it's how often am I going to get to do it, and is it random when I do?
Yeah.
And that's anything that isn't is automatically above the ones that are random, I think.
Yeah. Which brings us to the enhancements, which I never have to choose one to use because they're all passive.
You said this earlier. That's such a great thing. The whetstone again is going to let you carve into, because we just already mentioned them. Obviously, is going to let you carve into like high armor armies like Stormcast and Chaos. What's the next one?
The next one is the control characteristic of 5, so you can just take it away from heroes, take it away from small units. It's pretty good. Ward save of 6+. I don't make saves anyway, so I'm never going to take that one. Or Mega Bossy. If this unit has charged this turn, for the rest of the turn, add 1 to charge rolls for friendly units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. That's hard to... He's got a big base, so that 12-inch bubble is pretty big, but after his charge move, I still have to have the whole unit within 12. It's going to... I don't think it's going to come up enough to be interesting.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Although... the turn that he charges in, and I just deployed those 2 units outside of 6.
You can control it. Yep, absolutely.
That's going to be
a
maybe the turn.
26-inch bubble, basically, a 26-inch circle, which is most of the table.
And it's what Andrasta gets for 1 turn, but he gets it for the whole game.
Yep.
So it's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then what's left?
That's it. That's the 4.
That's the 4.
So 6 up board, +1 charge, 5 control, or Rend 2.
Where would you put these? Ranking them,
I'm gonna say it's gonna be. I love that you don't have to choose before the matchup, because I'm gonna say that it's gonna be between the Rend 2 and the Control 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing
in most games.
Yep.
I think that's gonna be the coin toss. I think the Mega Bossy occasionally, if your opponent's really cagey, then that could make a big difference.
Yeah.
And then Armor of Gork is, if you really don't think you're going to need anything else, but I can't see a 6-up save being...
No, it's not the one, like, because, for the turn that it really matters, there's a card in the deck that you can fish for to get a 5+ forward. Like, those, that or Steel Defense to just keep your save at a 3 forever and ignore Rend.
Yeah.
Like, that one, if you're going to pick one of the things, I think the Amberbone, like, even just the Amberbone being like a default,
Yeah.
Where it's like having no save is great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I'm hitting into light guys, like I can just be killing Skaven, 2
Yeah.
Skaven at a time, basically with my sword.
Yeah.
Even against low armor save targets, it just makes because he doesn't have mortal wounds.
Yeah.
It just makes his attacks more effective when he's landing them. And then the OC of 5 and the what's the other one? The OC of 5 and because the 6+ word thing I think is on the bottom, like you said.
Yeah.
What was the other one? It was
Mega Bossy. The
Mega
plus
Bossy.
1 inch to charges if I charge.
If you charge,
Yeah.
yeah, those two are kind of on the same level. I do think the OC5 is actually. I think the OC5 and the Rend are tied at the top.
Yeah.
Because against some armies, he's just going to be able to walk in and be like, "This is I killed one guy. This is mine now."
Yeah.
And you don't have a lot in the army that can do that because he starts on the table. That's going to keep you scoring potentially or holding for the first 2 rounds.
Yeah. Depends
I
on how
agree.
deeply you're going into the I want to be the underdog until the end of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then let's talk about in-game terms. We just mentioned a few in battle tactics cards. Any do you think you want to fish for or hang on to instead of scoring?
I mean, failing a charge with this army sucks.
It does because you're so slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So having the option to re-roll that charge, having any of the redeployment, like movement's good because this army doesn't move.
Yep.
And I mean anything that's going to keep my hero alive.
Yeah, I was thinking steel defense for your hero to ignore the Rend because having a 3+ armor save across almost the entire army except for the Rekkas, steel defense is really valuable because a 3+ unmodifiable save is great.
Yep.
When you have a pile of wounds, that's a not nothing unless what you're fighting has mortal wounds. And then rise to challenge, the healing potion. I think those two are really, really, really useful. We were talking a little bit about where is it? Fight to the last and call reinforcements. I think you were right when you said that call reinforcements has a ton of value on paper with your brutes, but because they don't arrive until turn 3, it's so unlikely they get taken off the board anyway.
Yeah.
That hang on to it for 2 turns as opposed to scoring attack on 2 fronts probably isn't as valuable.
Yeah,
So while the potential for it's there, if it was in my hand on turn 1, I probably wouldn't save it.
Yeah.
Versus just burning it.
Although it does work on the Iron Boys, which is good.
It does work on the Ironjawz. That's true. Yeah. Because they're 5-man units as well,
5s.
isn't it? Yeah, maybe.
And then what's the one card that has fallback and
Fallback and rally.
Fallback and rally.
You take no mortal damage, and on 5s you get guys back.
Yeah, when you're down to the one brute left in the squad.
Have
or
him
the
just
one...
drag his friends back and kick him back onto the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you're doing that with the Ard Boys, then you're setting up to be charged again, and then you get the +1 rend on the charge, and you get your shield bashes back. So
yeah. What about line of sight? Any thoughts on terrain? You're not wanting to be defender that much anyway.
Yeah, I don't. Well, defender, I want to be because of action. Terrain, I just want it out of the way unless my opponent is got a lot of ranged attacks, and then I want it right in the middle.
It really just blocks your base. That's the thing is having him in the way of your big bases is a problem. So you kind of want it as much out of the way as possible. Maybe for turn 1 for your mega boss, hiding from shooting could be useful.
Yeah,
on the small piece, just having the small piece in front of him turn 1, having a place to put him. It's not near an objective.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think terrain placement's pretty much reacting to what your opponent has, not you having.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not like the Sylvaneth where you need it to be near objectives, so you can jump in between them.
For sure.
Any closing thoughts then? How do you feel about this Spearhead?
I feel like it's one that you're going to want to play super aggressively, and you're probably going to be wrong if you do that. I think you need to hang back a little bit and really
then you just go
capitalize
full
on the end
3.
game.
Yeah, go full throttle on 3.
I think that's where you want to be.
Trying to just consistently score 3 for 1 and 2, and maybe a couple of your battle tactics, and then just go whole ham at the end.
I think a perfect game with these guys, neither player hits 20 points. I think they're going to be
You're denying basically.
Yeah, I think you want to keep it. I think you want to keep it close, and then you want to keep the scores as low as you can.
And then just kind of creep forward with your what is it, Mighty Destroyer, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I like it. I think again, I look at this one kind of like a Stormcast army, where it's relatively beginner friendly. Everything does exactly what it looks like it does. It hits and hits and hits. The ones that have armor are hard to kill. The ones that don't have armor strike first and are lighter and faster. I think using the towering or Ensemble Destroyer, I think using that move properly is probably where the finesse for this army comes into. But because the models are easy to build, they're nice and easy to paint.
Yeah.
And they have a fairly straightforward like game design, they're probably pretty beginner friendly, and I like that for this game in general.
Yep.
Sweet. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, anytime.
Thanks you guys for watching. We'll be back with more Spear Tips. You can watch a game with these guys as well today. Until then, I'm Ash.